The Highlands of Scotland had another sharp taste of winter today. Snow, drifting into strong winds straight out of the Arctic, closed schools and major roads. Some drivers haven't been able to move for 24 hours. Our Scotland correspondent Linda Kennedy reports.
This was the main north-south route in Scotland, impassable for much of the day. Only emergency vehicles made it through, sending an urgent call for even more snowplows.
That's nearly back at the summit. Can you make your way back up again?
And on a road used to heavy snowfall, today brought some of the worst conditions in years.
The problem is not with the depth of the snow, it is lying, but it's just a few inches. The difficulty is that virtually the moment the snow has fallen, it's been whipped up by incredibly strong winds, meaning at times there is almost a white oblivion, and visibility is just a few metres.
Access was blocked, forcing lorry drivers to wait. They hoped it would just be hours. To their frustration, it was much more.
Well, he came up last night and I seen that the road was blocked, so I pulled into a lay-by.
It's Monday and you like to get a good start, to the week, but as I say, we just need to wait and see. It's all in the hands of the gods now.
Here, at least, the weather finally improved. After a last inspection, a decision was made. And late today, this crucial route was reopened. Elsewhere, the wintry weather didn't relent. Schools remained shut as pupils couldn't get through. And as temperatures with wind chill are set to drop to -10, the disruption could continue. Linda Kennedy, News at 10, Perthshire.
With little more than 12 hours to go now to the deadline for a Kosovo deal, they're still talking, but the American State Department says it's hard to be optimistic. Neither side, Serb nor ethnic Albanian, has given an unconditional yes to what's on offer. Reporting from Rambouillet in France, here's our senior correspondent Mark Austin.
As these talks continue for yet another night, there are reports of some progress being made. But the big question remains whether it's progress that can be turned into an agreement by tomorrow.
It's the Americans who wear the sheriff's hat in the modern world, and it's the Americans trying to force through the peace deal on Kosovo. As the clock ticks away, is there any scope for optimism?
That's the wrong question. I am here to work hard.
It was always reckoned it would be the Serbs who would have to be bullied into this agreement, but all day the Americans have had to focus on persuading the Kosovar Albanians to sign. Their guerrilla fighters are unhappy about disarming, and they're holding out for full independence, much to the frustration of the Americans.
What we're trying to do is an interim agreement that doesn't last forever, that lasts for 3 years to prevent the kind of killing that we have seen in Kosovo and that we fear will escalate this spring.
Today, NATO air power continued to build up in the region, reinforcing the threat to bomb the Serbs. But there can be no bombing campaign while the Kosovar Albanians themselves are refusing to sign a deal. For their part, Serb negotiators continue to reject any plan for a NATO-led peacekeeping force and question the justification for airstrikes.
Why to have airstrikes? What for? To punish us because we are fighting for our country against terrorists?
With just hours to go to the latest deadline, NATO's top general in Europe has arrived in France to try and reassure the Kosovar Albanians and no doubt put extra pressure on the Serbs. Foreign Secretary Robin Cook also arrives here tomorrow to try and help through a last-minute deal. But the question no one is answering this evening is if neither side signs the agreement, will the deadline be put back yet again? Mark Austin, News at 10, Rambouillet.
2 people were killed and around 10 French tourists are reported missing after an avalanche in southwest Switzerland. The avalanche tore through an area near the village of Evolene, engulfing several chalets. It follows weeks of snowfalls which have forced hundreds of people to leave their homes. 1 person has died after 9 people were shot outside a theatre in a crowded street in Australia. Passers-by watched in horror as a gunman opened fire in the city of Wollongong, 60 miles south of Sydney. A man's been arrested. And 2 British balloonists are still on course for a round-the-world record after a daring high-wire act today. Andy Elson climbed outside the capsule and, using an umbrella to protect him from the sun, carried out vital repair work. Return now to the leaked Lawrence Inquiry report, whose main charge appears to be that the Metropolitan Police Service is riven by pernicious and institutionalised racism. The Commissioner of the Met, Sir Paul Condon, has denied that, though it's widely accepted that some individual policemen and policewomen are racist. So what are the people responsible for recruiting the training of police officers doing about it? Our senior political correspondent, Joe Andrews, has been investigating for tonight's special report.
The Lawrence report will give every serving police officer food for thought. It's already altered the lives of these men and women. They're police recruits at Hendon, training on a new course brought in last year. It's designed, say senior officers, to allow them to reflect city communities more accurately and police them better. The police themselves are aware that they have a problem. An internal report published nearly 18 months ago spoke of a canteen culture, a culture in which racist remarks were made and went unchallenged. But that's changing, say the police, and for the first time the press were invited here to see how recruits are prepared.
Go away, you're out. I've had enough, you're out.
During 18 weeks, every one of these recruits is carefully monitored, at work, at leisure, and during role-playing like this. Last year, 9 were dropped from this course for racism, and the new rule they must learn here is that if an accusation of racism is made, it can't be dismissed.
Say it. And as soon as somebody says it's a racial incident, then that's it, it is. And obviously we follow it as such.
The man who brought in these changes has a vision of a radically different police force.
It's something that we need to make sure doesn't exist, and we need to make sure that officers aren't expressing racist or sexist or homophobic views.
7% of the Met's recruits are now from ethnic minorities. The police would like more, but even their most senior black officer acknowledges the problems.
I believe, we will make changes from within. You can't steer a ship from the shore, you've got to be on board.
The top ranks of the Metropolitan Police clearly believe in the need for change, and their recruits are now being trained differently. But far more difficult to reach are the vast majority of serving police officers in the middle. Norwell Roberts, London's first black policeman, joined the force on the same day as Sir Paul Condon. Sir Paul, on the left in the picture, became the commissioner. This is how the police treated Mr. Roberts.
I had buttons ripped off my uniform, matchsticks and keels on my car. My car was scratched with half crowns, my tyres were slashed, my car was towed away on several occasions. I was spat at, had cups of tea thrown at me, as well as being ostracised.
But he stuck it for 30 years.
I used to go back to my section house and cry, in the bathroom, but that's the only way that's where I dealt with it.
Dave Michael is a serving policeman. He settled a case against the Met alleging discrimination and has tried to go back to work.
Everything was said which suggested that I was being welcomed back and with lots of hope for the future. But it didn't take long in actually the way I was in my daily existence to see that those words just weren't being translated into practical action.
Both men know how hard it will be for the recruits, not here in training school, but when they go out to London's police stations and deal with racism on the streets and amongst their colleagues. It's there that the force's new attitude has to survive to be successful. Joe Andrews, News at 10, Hendon.
Now sport, the replay of the FA Cup 5th round tie between Arsenal and Sheffield United tomorrow is definitely on. The sports governing body FIFA gave its consent tonight. The original game ended 2-1 to Arsenal after 2 of their players inadvertently broke a tradition of sportsmanship. Our sports correspondent Graham Miller reports.